They came to me and said, "You want to be tied up too?" I said, "No, I'm not getting tied up."
Inmate John Lynn suffered the same fate as Ronald Kane.
They're murdered. George gives the order, you know, these guys got to go. They saw too much. They're not one of us. You know, and so these guys become victims just by chance.
You hear a lot of moaning, a lot of crying, a lot of begging, a lot of shut up, and, you know, like thuds. And it was pretty bad, man. I was just waiting on it to come to me.
23-year-old Officer Charles Breckenridge would become another victim. After escorting inmate John Cluchet from the visiting area, both men entered the adjustment center. Breckenridge was seized by inmates. Cluchet was uncertain as to what was happening. He moved to a cell on the other side of the AC, and sometime later saw George Jackson.
He was like he was in a daze. I had never seen him like that. He was just kind of just walking back and forth. He wasn't saying anything. He wasn't talking to anybody. He was just walking back and forth like, you know, I mean, just had kind of like just a blank look in his eyes.
Supervising Sergeant Jerry Graham began searching for his officers. They were gone too long. Graham, the married father of 4 children, had the door to the AC opened. After he walked in, Graham was taken hostage. The officer who unlocked the AC door looked through the window and saw George Jackson staring at him.
You know, at that point, Jackson fires the gun, and that alerts everybody.
Moments later, Sergeant Graham was shot dead. When Lieutenant Richard Nelson took a break from painting his house on prison grounds, he heard the sound of gunshots. Nelson walked outside and saw Associate Warden James Park running.
Moving very quickly down the hill towards the prison, he said, "You better get in there, George Jackson's loose with a gun." So at that point, I made the decision in my mind to go directly to the armory, grab a machine gun, and go in and find George Jackson, shoot him, and kill him.
The floor of the AC was covered in blood. Johnny Spain was desperate to leave what he called the chaos.
It was at that point that I was trying to get the keys. It's like, okay, it's time to get this door open and for me to get out of here. That's what it's time for.
George Jackson joined Spain near the entrance of the AC.
I think the thing I remember most is George, you know, I wanted to know if he was all right. You know, are you all right, you know? And he said, "Yeah, comrade, I'm fine, I got it.
Both have a small bottle of what they believed were explosives.
He's got the gun in his hand, and, you know, he announces to his comrades, "It's me they want. It's me they want." So he bursts out the door with the gun in his hand and starts running across the yard towards one of the walls.
As Jackson and Spain ran out of the adjustment center, shots were fired in their direction. Jackson was struck in the ankle.
And he stumbled and tried to continue, and then I didn't actually see him get hit with the second shot at the moment of impact. I did see him as he stumbled forward after being shot the second time, and when he stumbled forward, he was dead.
An officer laying on the north block gun rail aimed his .30-30 Winchester rifle at Jackson and fired the fatal shot.
And the nature of that second bullet was devastating because it entered his back, lower back. As he bent over, leaning forward, that bullet coming at an angle hit the bone and shot straight up and exited his skull, killing him immediately.
Not far from Jackson's body, Johnny Spain was apprehended in bushes next to the chapel. The smuggled bottle each man carried contained nothing more than water and hydrochloric acid. But the dragon had come.
Yeah, there was a lot of frustration, pent-up hate, you know, and finally they busting doors open. You know, it's going to come out.
Who did you see doing the beating and the killing?
Convicts. I got no names for you. I'm not going to give any names. I'm not going to get anybody busted. I think what happened was going to happen anyway. It was just that time.
If I leave here alive, I'll leave nothing behind. They'll never count me among the broken men.
The body of George Jackson suggested finality, but the adjustment center remained in turmoil. Alan Mancino was in a fight for his life. According to Mancino, it was racial, black against white.
So I was in kind of like the corner, and 4 or 5 of them ran at me and we started fighting. And we fought. I mean, it was like, when you're fighting for your life, it's like you don't even get tired. It's just like it's pure adrenaline, you know. And I was fighting, and someone said, "They're coming," or something like that, you know. "Man's coming, they're coming."
Heavily armed prison guards entered the adjustment center. Lieutenant Richard Nelson fired warning shots from his .45 caliber machine gun.
There's some interchange between the inmates and us. From the inmates' side, that they have hostages and they're going to kill them. And from our side was, well, you release your hostages, we're coming after you, we're going to kill all of you.
They had a .45 caliber machine gun, and they were just shooting up everything. You know, we were all hitting the floor and stuff.
They told me, "Come forward, your hands in the air," and I did that. They snatched me, they ripped all the clothes off me, they were beating me right there.
They had like a little gauntlet. They had shotguns and rifles and side, or I never really know. I don't know. You know what I mean? I just, like I say, because that day when I looked at him and looked at his face, he just looked like somebody I didn't know anymore, and he just looked like, you know, what the hell or something. I don't know.
There's a general lockup throughout the institution. Prisoners have been fed in their cells. Tomorrow there will be no visitors at San Quentin. The institution is described as quiet but tense. The 6 people killed in this riot make it the worst incident of this kind in the modern history of San Quentin prison.
Most agree the incident was over in less than 30 minutes.
It was very much like a war. I mean, people, they could smell it, they could hear it outside. It was an earth-shattering, you know, day. It was a terrible day.
6 officers had been taken hostage. 3 were murdered. Their bodies found in George Jackson's cell. Sergeant Jerry Graham had multiple stab wounds and was shot in the head. Officer Frank DeLeon was slashed, strangled, also shot in the head. Officer Paul Krasnes received 4 deep cuts through his throat and was strangled to death. The 2 white inmates, Ronald Kane and John Lynn, suffered fatal wounds to the neck area. The 3 guards who survived were rushed to a hospital in Marin County for treatment.
They were all stab wounds or slicing wounds. On the neck. McCrae has one on either side. Rubiasso has a long cut on his neck and several minor ones at various places on his neck. And Breckenridge is the one who's in surgery now, is in critical condition. He's the critical one.
As for Associate Warden James Park, though he tried to remain composed, there were moments when he could not hide his emotions.
I think our recent assaults on officers stem largely from this irresponsible kind of blathering about the revolution and kill the pig and this kind of crap.
I was angry. I wouldn't have maybe used such intemperate terms, but they were bull dilettantes.
Just like the tiger cages in South Vietnam.
Not realizing that there's a world out there in which people live or die and are killed for ideas.
It was Park who delivered the terrible news to the families of officers Paul Krasniss and Frank De Leon. Vivian De Leon, now the widowed mother of 5 children, was the first to be informed.
I went there with a uniformed officer, and as soon as she saw us, she knew what it was, and she started screaming, and she just really went into a hysterical situation and was really unmanageable. We got her to sit down and tried to find somebody, some woman to come be with her, and find one of the neighbor women came in to help calm her down.
Park then went to the home of Francis Krasniss.
Well, I think she handled it very quietly. She had her girls kneel, and she gave them soda crackers as though they were communion wafers. And I think she drew on her Catholic resources, and I think that sustained her very much.
They don't tell me anything. They didn't even tell me he was dead. I found that out on the radio.
The Reverend Cecil Williams of San Francisco's Glide Memorial Church was a friend of George Jackson's family. Williams accompanied Jackson's mother, Georgia,